When everything seems perfectly fine, yet inside your mind a storm begins to rise? When suddenly you get so angry that you barely recognize yourself? Or when it feels like your own mind is working against you? Because the real battle isn't outside, it's happening inside our minds. And the one who wins this battle becomes the true master of their life. When the mind becomes the master, we all believe that our life is shaped by our decisions. But the truth is, most of our decisions aren't made by us. They're made by our emotions. A decision made in anger can break relationships. A decision made in fear can stop dreams. And later we say, I wish I'd stayed calm that time. Because not controlling your mind is like handing over your steering wheel to someone else. Brain, how does the mind control us? Now, if our mind belongs to us, why does it sometimes work against us? Thibaut Meurisse explains, our mind has 3 layers. Keycap 1 emotions, keycap 2 thoughts, keycap 3 interpretations. Emotion creates the signal, thought gives it meaning, and interpretation turns that meaning into reality. For example, someone slightly laughs at your mistake. You think they're mocking you, and instantly your mood drops. But in reality, maybe they just smiled. Backhand index pointing right. That's the moment your mind controlled you, not the other way around. Light bulb mini shock moment. Emotion isn't the enemy. Emotion isn't your enemy. It's just misunderstood. Every signal is a message, and every message hides a lesson for growth. But instead of understanding that signal, we react to it. We run away in fear. We shout in anger, and then start fighting ourselves. Now ask yourself, when was the last time someone's one word changed your entire day? Maybe that moment was when your mind became your master. Tornado, the power of interpretation. The true strength of emotion. Every emotion starts with a trigger, but its impact depends on how you interpret it. If you think, that was an insult, you'll feel hurt. If you think, maybe they're just having a bad day, you'll stay calm. The situation is the same, only the lens has changed. Here's where the mind tricks us. It creates meaning based on past experiences, not on truth. Thibaut says, we don't feel our emotions, we feel the story behind them. Awareness, the beginning of mastery. Control begins with awareness. When you catch an emotion as it arises, it loses its grip on you. Next time you feel anger, pause for just 1 second and ask yourself, is this emotion helping me or hurting me? That 1 second of pause is what moves you from a reactive mind to a responsive mind. And that's where mastery begins, not by suppressing the mind, but by understanding it. Beating heart emotional connect, the root of fear, anger, and anxiety. Thibaut explains that every negative emotion comes from the same root, the fear of not being enough. We fear being judged. We fear failure. We fear rejection. But every emotion is just a signal saying, this part of you needs healing. Now imagine if you start seeing emotions not as fights to win, but as messages to understand. Wouldn't life feel lighter? Gear actionable takeaway. The first step. Starting today, just do one thing. Whenever an emotion arises, don't fight it, just observe it. Observe, don't react. Because the more you observe, the less control it will have. Controlling the mind isn't a battle, it's an understanding. And that understanding can begin today. Every emotion is a message, not a punishment. Behind every anger is a hidden fear, and behind every fear lies an unfinished lesson. If today you can understand just this, that emotion is not a curse, but a signal, then you've not just understood your mind, you've started learning its language. And maybe that's what real success is, not when you become a slave to your mind, but when you become its partner. Next, we'll explore how to transform your reactive mind into a responsive mind, so you can stay calm, balanced, and aware, no matter what life throws at you. Has it ever happened to you? Someone says something small, and you explode instantly, and later you keep wondering, why did I overreact so much? In that exact moment, your mind splits in two. One part reacts, and the other understands. That's the real difference between a reactive mind and a responsive mind. Because every time someone triggers you, that moment is actually a mirror showing you what's still unresolved within you. Fire reactive mind, the first shock. The reactive mind is like an old alarm system, one that was turned on long ago by fear, shame, or judgment. And now, years later, it still rings the moment it hears a familiar sound. Your boss just says, "Be careful next time." But instantly, that old voice inside whispers, "Maybe I failed again." The truth is, your boss didn't scold you. Your mind just viewed the moment through the lens of old experiences. Thibaut Meurisse says, "We remain trapped until we identify our triggers." The reactive mind is a habit where emotion runs faster than thought. You speak before thinking and then end up fighting yourself later. Seedling responsive mind, the power to pause and see. Having a responsive mind doesn't mean becoming a robot. It means calming the chaos within. When you pause and observe, you realize that emotion isn't your enemy. It's a message. Emotional maturity isn't about killing emotions. It's about understanding them, like learning not to stop the waves, but to surf along with them. A responsive mind understands. The way I look at this moment decides how I feel about it. Thought balloon, a real-life mirror story. There was once a man with a short temper. One day, his son accidentally spilled milk. He was about to yell, but suddenly he stopped. He said nothing. Then a quiet voice inside him asked, "Is this moment more important than my peace?" He smiled and said softly, "It's okay." For the first time, he didn't react. He responded. That's true mastery, when you recognize the wave rising within and let it pass peacefully. Brain, the science of pause. Every emotion lasts only a few seconds. If you can pause for 6 seconds, that anger, fear, or sadness can dissolve. Those 6 seconds can either break you or make you, because emotion is a chemical reaction. If you don't act on it instantly, it dissipates. The responsive mind is born in that pause. That pause is your power zone. Dizzy emotional awareness. Now the question changes from, why did I get angry? To, what is this anger trying to teach me? Pause and reflect. What are the 3 things that instantly disturb you? Which words or tones shake you from within? When you bring awareness, emotion stops controlling you and starts teaching you. Tornado energy shift and emotional maturity. Inside every negative emotion lies a positive force. You just need to shift the direction of how you see it. The reactive mind is like a storm. The responsive mind like the wind. Both are powerful. The difference is direction. That's the shift, where reaction is replaced by calm understanding. Unlocked observe, label, release technique. Whenever an emotion arises, pause, observe it, name it, and let it go. This is anger. This is fear. This is helplessness. The moment you label it, it loses its grip on you. Thibaut says, the one who runs away gets chased. So don't run from emotion. Observe it, acknowledge it, release it. Sunrise the calm within. The reactive mind makes noise. The responsive mind listens. Controlling your mind isn't a war. It's a dance. Each time you pause, you hear the peace within. True strength lies in that moment. When you don't react, you understand. And the one who understands, the beliefs hidden behind their emotions, finds true freedom. Next, we'll uncover those deep-rooted beliefs that silently shape the direction of your emotions. Have you ever wondered why some things make you angry, while the same thing makes someone else just laugh it off? Are your emotions really under your control or someone else's? Why does one word from a person ruin your whole day, but the same word from someone else means nothing at all? The truth is, we don't see life as it is. We see it as we are. Brain, where do emotions come from? Every emotion, anger, shame, fear, guilt, is linked to a belief. A belief is that unspoken thought deeply rooted inside you. For example, if someone ignores you and it hurts, you weren't really hurt by being ignored. You were hurt by the belief that says, maybe I'm not important enough. That belief triggers the emotion every single time. Directed step 1. Identify the belief. Before you can change an emotion, you need to find its root belief. Every time you feel a strong emotion, ask yourself, what am I believing right now that makes me feel this way? Gradually, you'll notice that most negative emotions come from one core belief, like I'm not good enough, I don't deserve love, or the world isn't safe. A parent's criticism, a friend's joke, a moment of failure. All of these feed that same belief. Sealing step 2, listen to your inner voice. Sometimes that belief isn't even your voice. It's someone else's, a voice from childhood that sank deep inside. You'll never be good enough. People don't like you. You're weak. These voices dig so deep into your subconscious that when something touches them later, it feels like an old wound has reopened. Magnifying glass still to the left, step 3. Challenge a belief. Once you've identified it, the next step is to question it. Every time a painful emotion appears, don't run away. Pause and gently ask yourself, is this belief always true? Or is it just an old wound that hasn't healed yet? That's where healing begins. Thought balloon relatable moment. Have you ever texted someone and they didn't reply? Instantly your mind says, they don't care anymore. But is that true, or is your old belief speaking? I always get ignored. Or someone cracks a joke and it hurts you. It's not the joke that hurts. It's the belief inside that whispers, I'm not strong enough. Every time an emotion rises, it touches an older version of you. Counterclockwise arrows button, step 4. Adopt a new belief. When you begin to doubt the old belief, new meanings start to form. Instead of people ignore me, you begin to think, everyone has their own priorities. It's not about me. Instead of I'm not good enough, you think, I'm learning every day and that's progress. Gradually, your emotions stop playing with you and start working for you. Beating heart, step 5. Change your self-talk. Your mind talks to you hundreds of times a day, and whatever it repeats most often becomes your reality. So listen carefully to your inner talk. If it's filled with words like, I'm useless, I can't do this, you're shrinking yourself every day. But if you start saying, I am the master of my emotions, I can choose my thoughts, then within weeks, your subconscious begins writing a new story. Person in lotus position, step 6. The power of pause. Before every reaction, take a pause. Because between emotion and response lies a tiny gap, and that gap is your freedom. Once you learn to feel that gap, your mind no longer controls you. You start controlling your mind. Dove, inner freedom moment. Have you ever felt a sudden lightness inside, as if a heavy weight just lifted? That's the moment you release an old belief. You realize you're not the emotion, you're the observer watching it. Now you understand, your emotions aren't enemies. They're just the echoes of old beliefs, still living inside you, and the power to change them has always been within you. Next, we'll explore how, when a belief changes, your subconscious begins to shape a brand new reality. When someone criticizes you, you don't get angry, you feel hurt. But we throw that pain out in the form of anger. Emotion never lies. It only needs the courage to be heard. And that's where we start living the biggest lie of our lives. This is where the real journey of emotional awareness begins, where we don't just react, we understand why the reaction came. Tornado keycap, 2 layers of emotion. Every emotion has another layer beneath it. What we feel on the surface is not the real truth. You're angry, deep down you're hurt. You're jealous, deep down there's fear that I'm not enough. You feel guilty, deep down you're craving acceptance. As the lens clears, we begin to see emotions aren't enemies, they're signals. Awareness doesn't erase pain, it gives a direction. Puzzle piece keycap, 3 reaction versus response, the pause rule. Thibaut says, between stimulus and response lies your freedom. Whenever you get triggered, just pause for 3 seconds. Say nothing, think nothing. In those first 3 seconds, your mind is defensive. If you cross that, you enter the conscious zone. Just 3 seconds, that's your freedom and also your prison. Brain keycap for the source of emotions, beliefs, not just memories. Our emotions don't come from incidents. They come from beliefs formed by those incidents. Someone told you in childhood you're not capable. Now, when someone challenges you, that same belief gets reactivated. A small example: someone at work makes fun of you and you become defensive, but the real trigger isn't them. It's that old belief, I'm weak. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Thought Balloon Keycap 5 Emotional Responsibility. The button is inside you. Someone else may trigger you, but the button is within you. When you stop blaming others, your energy becomes free. Now no one can press the button inside me. Now I see every crack as a story of strength. Slowly, the mirror reflection begins to glow, a sign of inner clarity. Gear Keycap 6 Emotion to Energy Shift. Every emotion is a form of energy. If you suppress it, it becomes tension. If you observe it, it dissolves. Emotion dissipates when it is fully felt. When you allow yourself to feel, the emotion transforms into power. Rainbow Keycap 7 Emotional Alchemy. From pain to power. Fire can burn wood, but it can also bake bread. Every emotion is the same. It can destroy or it can create. Feelings are feedbacks, not failures. I'm listening to my pain, not pushing it away. Sunrise Keycap 8 The Observer Seat. Now you are not the emotion, you are the observer. Waves come and go, you just watch. Emotion is temporary, awareness is eternal. Keep the pacing slow. 8 seconds of silence and calmness. Keycap 9 Reflection and Practice. Take 5 minutes every night. Write, which emotion caught me today? Then ask why. This is your awareness gym. Each day, a little bit of your mind's pattern becomes clearer. Slowly, you'll shift from being reactive to being responsive. Bell 10 Closing. Don't fight emotions, befriend them. Don't suppress your emotions, listen to them. Every trigger is a message from life. Every time you get triggered, life whispers, look, there's still a wound here. I don't control anymore, I just listen. Control doesn't mean suppression. It means direction through understanding. In the next part, we'll explore how this awareness transforms your relationships, confidence, and life choices. Because once you learn to listen to your own emotions, you begin to truly feel others, and that's where real freedom begins. Have you ever felt like something inside you is about to explode? Like a volcano, unable to erupt, just burning quietly within? Every time you suppress your emotions, they don't go anywhere. They simply pile up inside you, and slowly, they start burning you from within. Ever wondered why we get exhausted trying to control our emotions? Because instead of understanding them, we start running from them. Emotions are not your enemies. They're your inner messengers, trying to tell you that something is incomplete, something unheard. But out of fear or habit, we suppress them. We turn sadness into laughter, fear into anger, and insecurity into a fake mask of confidence. And that's the moment we drift away from our true self. Pause for a second. Next time you feel angry, just feel it for 10 seconds. Don't suppress it. Try to see the fear or pain hidden behind that anger. You'll realize the real battle isn't with anyone else. It's within you. True control begins where you honestly look inside yourself. The mind is like a wild horse. If you try to hold it too tightly, it becomes more aggressive. But if you guide it with love and patience, that same horse can take you to your destination. Our mind works the same way. It doesn't need command, it needs understanding. And that understanding comes from awareness, the ability to look within. Awareness is a mirror where you can see every emotion without judging it. Once you truly see it, the emotion loses its power. It can no longer control you. Now think, what if every emotion isn't your enemy but your teacher? Fear can teach you where to trust. Anger can remind you what boundaries not to cross. And sadness can show you that your heart is still capable of feeling. If you learn to listen to your emotions instead of suppressing them, they become your most honest friends. But it's not easy. When we look within, old memories, wounds, and rejections resurface. We fear feeling that pain again, and that's where most people stop. They say, I'm strong. I don't feel anything. But the truth is, the one who says this is often the most broken. Strength doesn't mean you don't cry. It means you accept yourself even while crying. That's what emotional maturity truly is. Pause and ask yourself, when did I run away from my inner pain? Maybe it was when someone misunderstood you and you stayed silent. That silence has now turned into anger. Every suppressed emotion turns into energy trapped inside the body. So when you allow yourself to truly feel, genuinely, without resistance, that energy gets released. And that release makes you lighter. Have you noticed when you cry deeply, afterward you feel a strange peace? That's because an emotion dissipates when it's fully lived. Control doesn't mean stopping it. It means flowing through it completely. That's where inner mastery begins. I've learned this myself. Whenever an emotion arises, observe it before labeling it. This is anger. This is sadness. Just saying that is enough. That small awareness separates you from the emotion. Now you're not the emotion. You are the witness of it. And when you become the witness, control naturally follows. Now you don't react, you respond. The difference is small, but the outcome is huge. In reacting, you are a slave. In responding, you are the master. Also understand, when someone provokes you and you don't respond, their control over you ends. They pressed the button, but you disconnected the wire. That's the sign of emotional mastery, when your mood no longer depends on someone else's words or actions. Now your peace comes from within, not from outer situations. That's true freedom. We all heard as children, don't cry, don't be angry, don't be scared. But no one ever said, feel it and understand it. That's why, as adults, we fear our emotions. But now it's time to change that. We must stop fighting our emotions and start living with them. Because when you sit with your emotion without running, you begin to know yourself. And the one who knows himself becomes the master of his mind. Remember this. Don't try to conquer the mind. Try to understand it. Control doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. It's a state of understanding where you clearly see, this emotion has come, but it's not me. Living with that clarity is true mastery. Now circumstances don't define you. You define them. In the end, true control doesn't mean becoming cold and emotionless, but being able to feel everything without becoming a slave to anything. You stay calm within, no matter how big the storm outside is. That's the real victory. Recognizing the storm inside, embracing it, and then rising beyond it. And perhaps that's where the journey begins, where control no longer feels like force, but becomes natural. Because once you understand yourself, everything else starts to make sense. Have you ever heard just one word from someone, and suddenly everything inside you shook? A memory, a small sentence, and a storm rose within you. But why? In truth, our emotions don't arise on their own. They need a trigger. And every person carries different hidden triggers inside. For some, it's criticism. For others, rejection. For someone else, comparison. And for a few, even someone's silence is enough. Think about it. If someone tells you, you can't do it, it's just a sentence. But when your mind turns it into, I'm not good enough, that's when it becomes poison. That's where interpretation begins. And from there, every emotion is born. Thibaut Meurisse says, emotions are never wrong, but the thoughts behind them often are. Which means until we reach the root of our thoughts, we remain slaves to our emotions. Now ask yourself, what words trigger you the most? Is it really that person who hurt you or an old memory within you? Often, the answer doesn't lie in others, but inside us. The author explains that every emotion has a source. Anger comes from helplessness, fear from insecurity, jealousy from self-doubt, and sadness from unfulfilled expectations. Once we identify the root of these emotions, their power naturally weakens. But when we deny them, they grow deeper roots. Thibaut says, don't run away from your emotions. Listen to them. Because they don't speak against you, they speak for you. Many times, a small incident hurts us deeply because it touches an old wound inside. Maybe childhood neglect, or the pain of a broken relationship. Such wounds stay buried in our subconscious, and the moment a new event touches them, we explode emotionally. That's when we realize emotions aren't enemies, they're messengers. They tell us which parts of us still need healing. Now the question is, can we ever be completely free from emotions? No, but we can learn to use them to our advantage. That becomes possible only when we understand the difference between reaction and response. A reaction is when you instantly lash out. Someone says something and you snap. A response is when you pause, observe, and then speak. The difference looks small, but the result is massive. Thibaut writes, "Every emotion comes to teach you something. To suppress it is to miss the lesson. Anger shows you where your boundaries are. Fear shows you where courage is needed. Sadness shows where attachment runs deep. And jealousy reveals what's still unfulfilled within you." So next time an emotion arises, see it not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Try a small practice. When you feel something, just say, "I'm angry right now." This simple sentence separates you from the emotion, because when you observe it, you're no longer drowning in it. This is called emotional distancing, the first step toward control. Every emotion is like a wave. It rises, peaks, and then fades away. If you try to hold on to it, you'll drown in it. But if you simply let it flow, it will pass. Thibaut says, let the emotion come and go, but don't let it make a home in you. Now think, how many times have you told yourself, "I'll always be sad"? But does any emotion truly last forever? No. Emotions come and go. We're the ones who make them permanent. And that illusion is what creates inner conflict. The author says, control over emotions doesn't mean suppression. It means direction. Fear can be turned into motivation. Jealousy into self-improvement. Sadness into introspection. The only condition, you must learn to communicate with your mind. The mind is like a child. The more you understand it, the calmer it becomes. But the more you suppress it, the louder it screams. So whenever a negative wave arises within you, ask yourself, what am I afraid of losing? What do I want that I'm not getting? These two questions lead you to the root of your emotion. And once the root is visible, the emotion loses its power. Emotions don't pull us down. They show us the story within. They teach us where we're weak and where we can grow stronger. Thibaut's most profound thought is this: emotions are not our enemies. They're our mirrors. They show who we are, what we desire, and what we fear. So the next time a storm rises inside you, don't be afraid. Just pause and observe it, because the one who recognizes their own storm finds true peace. Remember, the one who can stay grounded within can handle the entire world. And that's the essence of control your mind before it controls you. When you begin to recognize your inner emotions, no one else can decide your mood, your choices, or the direction of your life. In that moment, you're not just calm, you're truly free. Have you ever felt like your own mind is working against you? You want to do something, but that same mind starts giving you fear, doubt, or excuses as if it doesn't want you to move forward. But is that really true? Is our mind truly against us? Or is it trying to protect us from some invisible danger? Now think for a moment. Every time you start something new, a voice rises inside you. What if people laugh? What if I fail? That voice that stops you is your mind, but it's not your enemy. It just wants to keep you safe. That's how it's programmed. Safety first, growth later. Thibaut says, the mind doesn't want growth, it wants safety. It thinks that if you change, you might get hurt. So it keeps you tied to old patterns. Like a friend who stops you from going on an adventure because he's afraid you might fall. You can't really blame him because he just wants to protect you. Now think, when someone criticizes you, your mind instantly becomes defensive, angry, or ashamed. Why? Because for the mind, criticism feels like a threat. It thinks, if people reject me, I'll be left alone. To understand this, look at an example. When you were a child and got scolded for a mistake, the shame or fear you felt back then is still active inside you today. That's why your mind keeps repeating the same old reaction, even though the situation has completely changed now. Now try a small experiment. Next time someone criticizes you or speaks against you, just pause for 5 seconds. Observe that emotion. Don't suppress it. Don't respond. Just watch it. You might realize that the pain, that anger, isn't your enemy. It's just the voice of an old wound inside you. The author here points out that awareness is the first step toward healing. The moment you start observing your emotions, the mind slowly begins to relax, because now it feels that you're truly listening. It no longer tries to stop you. It starts walking with you. Now think, what if, instead of trying to defeat your mind, you start communicating with it? What if you say, yes, I'm scared, but I'll still try? Then your mind slowly starts turning into your ally, because the mind needs only one thing: acknowledgement, to be heard. Thibaut says, your mind is not a cage, it's a classroom. Every thought, every emotion is a teacher showing you both your hidden fears and your untapped potential. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's a signal of growth. When the mind resists, it's actually showing you where healing is needed. Just like when you train a new muscle at the gym, it hurts, but that pain isn't your weakness. It's building your strength. In the same way, the discomfort of the mind is expanding you, even if it feels painful in the moment. Now ask yourself a deep question. Am I the master of my thoughts, or just their follower? When you start observing, you'll see that thoughts come and go, but the one who's watching them, that's you, your true awareness. The mind changes, but awareness remains still. Now imagine a modern situation. You create a reel or a video, and right before posting, your mind says, what if it looks cringe? What will people think? It tries to stop you, but in truth, it's protecting you because it fears rejection. But the moment you calmly say, yes, maybe people will laugh, but I want to learn, that resistance slowly begins to dissolve. See, the mind isn't a battlefield where you have to defeat it. It's a child crying out of fear. If you just hold it gently, it will calm down. The mind doesn't need a fight. It needs understanding. And maybe that's what mastery truly is, when you stop fighting your mind and start dancing with it. Because when the mind and awareness move in the same direction, a person becomes unstoppable. Because the one who learns to communicate with their mind can remain calm even amidst all the noise of the world. And that's the real victory. Not the one outside, but the one within. Sometimes life doesn't stop. It just breaks from within, like Aniket. He was still breathing, walking, working, but not truly living. Time kept passing, yet the chaos inside him never ended. Every day felt the same: office fatigue, the silence of the room, and the growing darkness within his mind. The calmer he appeared to the world outside, the stronger the storm grew inside him. Sometimes he asked himself, was it my fault or destiny's? But there was no answer. Only a voice whispered, something has to change. That voice started echoing louder, as if a volcano inside him was ready to erupt. One morning, when he looked at himself in the mirror, he was shocked. The face was the same, but there was no spark in his eyes. The man who once used to dream was nowhere to be found. And then he realized, maybe I'm alive, but I've disappeared from myself. But he didn't know that the mirror he looked into that day would change his life forever. He decided to find himself again. But finding oneself isn't as easy as it sounds. Every time he tried to move forward, fear pulled him back. What if I fail again? That fear was his biggest chain. But this time, he decided he would not run anymore. On the wall of his room, he wrote, "No fear now, only effort." Slowly, he shaped himself into a new discipline. Waking up early, sitting in silence for a while, and writing his thoughts in a diary. Small habits, but great reliefs. He realized that life doesn't change with big decisions, but with small steps. One day, he found an old drawing book in the cupboard. It had unfinished sketches, half a face, traces of broken dreams. Those pages were witnesses of his older self. He remembered he was once a great artist, but responsibilities had silenced his art. At that very moment, he thought, why not start again? He took a blank canvas and splashed colors on it, blue, red, yellow. At first, They were just random strokes, but there was a strange peace in them. Those colors were flowing straight from his heart, as if every stroke was healing an old wound. Gradually, a face began to emerge from those colors, incomplete yet alive. He felt as if he was rebuilding himself. When the painting was complete, for the first time, he took a deep breath of peace. He felt maybe life wasn't over yet. Days passed. He started painting again, mornings on canvas, nights filled with colors of thoughts. One day, he realized that this art wasn't just for himself, but for the world too. He uploaded some of his paintings online. At first, no one noticed, but slowly, people began to see his art. Some praised it, some criticized it, but Aniket had changed now. He no longer feared criticism. He understood that every opinion, whether good or bad, was just another stroke in his journey. Gradually, his paintings started gaining recognition. People said, "There's something different in these," as if every color is born from a story. Aniket had started smiling again. He had learned the greatest strength in life is the courage to start again. His mornings were now filled with hope. He would write in his diary, "Today I will create something new." And truly, every day he created something new, a painting, an idea, or a better version of himself. Sometimes his old fears returned, but now he didn't run away from them. He simply said, "Thank you, you made me stronger." He no longer feared the darkness. He had learned to talk to it. He now understood pain is not always a punishment. Sometimes it comes to show us who we really are. If he hadn't fallen, he might never have learned to rise. That very thought had now become his strength. His paintings now carried not just colors, but emotions. Every stroke told a story. Every shade sparked hope. People began to see their own reflections in his art. And Aniket realized that maybe this is the true meaning of life, turning your pain into someone else's light. He no longer fought with his past. He embraced it. He understood that a person remains incomplete until they accept the emptiness within. He didn't try to erase the darkness inside him. He simply understood it. And at that very moment, that darkness slowly began to turn into light. That day, he wrote in his diary, "I am the one who once broke apart, but now every piece of me shines." Those words weren't just a sentence. They were the essence of his entire journey. He was no longer in a race. He didn't want to get ahead of anyone anymore. He had only one goal, to become a little better every day. In the evenings, we watched the sun set to the window. He didn't see it as an ending, but as a new beginning. Slowly, darkness filled the room, and amidst it, his eyes began to shimmer with light. He had finally understood life doesn't stop, it just changes its form. Has it ever felt like life seems calm, but something inside you has already changed? The soft morning sunlight was slipping through the window. There was silence in the air, yet a new peace was being born within him. He was no longer fighting, just listening to the voices of his mind that once scared him, but now were teaching him. He now knew the mind doesn't need to be conquered. It needs to be understood. Every emotion, every thought. None of them are enemies. They're just parts of stories we once left unfinished. Now, he was completing those inner stories without fear or questions. Sometimes when someone's word hurt, he smiled and thought, maybe there's a lesson in this pain too. Sometimes when an old memory resurfaced, he didn't try to erase it. He simply said softly, "You came, I'm glad you did." Every feeling was no longer a question, just a story he had learned to listen to. Gradually, he realized that peace doesn't live in mountains or meditation. It lives in that very moment when you stop your mind from running away. When you can say, "Yes, you are here, and so am I." Now, every morning he looked in the mirror, not with question, but with gratitude. Thank you for still being with me. There was no clutter in his room anymore. The diary lay open, words half written, but meanings complete. The breeze coming through the window flipped its pages, and he felt as if his thoughts had learned to fly with the wind. He no longer tried to change others. He had realized that the one who makes peace with himself never wages war with others. He had freed himself from others' anger, words, and expectations. There was no longer a need to blame anyone. One day it was raining. He sat by the window, raindrops tapping gently on the glass. Each drop seemed to whisper, "We fall, but we never disappear." He felt that his life was just the same. Every time he fell, something new was born. In the sound of the rain, he heard a strange kind of music. Not an external tune, but one rising from within. Now, he felt every experience the way an artist feels colors. Sorrow was no longer black. It had turned deep blue. Peace was no longer white. It now shimmered golden. He painted a new picture on his wall. Silence speaks. It was a simple face, but its eyes carried infinite calm. Looking at it, he smiled. This is what I always wanted to become. Days passed, but time no longer chased him. He didn't listen to the ticking of the clock anymore. He listened to the silence between the ticks. In that silence, he could hear the heartbeat of his soul, steady, slow, yet profound. One morning, his little niece came to him and asked, "Uncle, why do you always smile?" He smiled gently and said, "Because I don't fight with myself anymore." The child sat on his lap, and he felt, this is what life truly means. When the peace inside you becomes someone else's smile. He now realized that the greatest form of control in life isn't control, it's connection. To control your mind doesn't mean to suppress it. It means to move with it, like a boat flowing with a river. When you stop swimming against the current of your mind, life itself takes you to the right shore. Every morning, as he took the first sip of tea, a soft smile appeared on his face, because now he knew that true freedom doesn't come from outcomes, but from quieting the noise within. Once he used to think, if I could control my emotions, everything would be easier. But now he knew emotions aren't enemies. They are messengers. Every anger, every fear, every sorrow is just an unread letter saying, "Listen to me too." He had learned to read every letter, and the more he read, the lighter his soul became. He now understood pain doesn't leave by being erased, it leaves by being understood. Don't try to bring peace, just stop your war, and peace will arrive on its own. His mind was no longer a control room, but a gallery, where every thought was a painting, every emotion a color, and every memory a story. He no longer got lost in them. He simply observed, like a visitor watching an exhibition of his own soul. At night, he would open his window, look at the stars, and feel that even the universe was silent, because it wasn't fighting with anyone. He now understood peace doesn't mean silence, it means acceptance. Acceptance that what is enough. The last page of his diary was empty, but this time he didn't write anything, because words were no longer needed. Sometimes the greatest answer is silence. He closed the pen, shut his eyes, and felt a melody was played within, one that words can never describe. Maybe this is what life truly means, when the peace within you becomes someone else's smile. Have you ever thought life isn't meant to be won, only to be felt? Yet we keep running, as if it's some endless race. He had been running too, for years, from his fears, his failures, and most of all from his own mind. But that morning, something in the air felt different. The sunlight through the window blended softly with the steam of his tea, and for the first time he felt, maybe peace isn't a destination, but an understanding. He wondered, had we ever really thought about what it means to live? Every day was just running, gaining, losing, regretting. But today, he wasn't doing anything. He just sat there listening to the voice within. That voice said, let go of control, just feel. And in that moment, he realized real strength lies not in control, but in surrender. Earlier, he used to watch motivational videos. Hearing "control your mind" would fill him with energy. But now he understood no one truly wins a battle against the mind, because the more you try to defeat it, the louder it returns. He had stopped fighting. He had learned to walk beside it. He once asked himself, what is success? Money, fame, or applause? The answer had changed. He discovered, success is when the noise inside you goes silent. When you can sit with yourself without running away. He now understood that the greatest comfort in life isn't doing nothing, but hiding nothing. He looked out the window. People walking, the sound of traffic, children laughing. It all felt new, like he was hearing for the first time. Every face looked familiar. Everyone was fighting their own fear, some for money, some for recognition, some just for a little peace. And he thought, if only someone had told me then, stop, this isn't failure, it's a path. Something inside him softened. Slowly, he began to see his relationships with new eyes. He no longer complained about anyone. Everyone was doing what they believed was best, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of attachment. And he realized, before you try to change someone, you must understand yourself. Every morning, he lit a small lamp, not for prayer, not for any god, but to remind his mind that darkness fades within, not from outside. In every flame, he saw an old mistake and smiled. When pain came, he no longer ran. He said, "Come, sit, tell me what you want to say." When fear appeared, he listened. When anger rose, he accepted it. Slowly, his mind began to calm, like a child gently soothed. He now knew peace doesn't come by scaring the mind, but by loving it. Sometimes he turned the pages of his old diary, where once anger, failure, and pain were written. Now, there were words of gratitude. He read and smiled. "Thank you, you showed me the way." Sometimes he wrote, "Today, I just existed, and that was enough." These small sentences became his new identity. One evening, he saw an old quote hanging on the wall. "Control your mind before it controls you." He smiled. "I used to believe that too." Now he knew the mind isn't meant to be suppressed, but guided. And that realization became the turning point of his life. Every day was now a meditation. The breath of morning, the stillness of evening, and the small laughter in between. Sometimes he paused at a child's smile, sometimes saw his own reflection in a stranger's pain. Every moment had become a mirror. He realized, if you look closely, everything is trying to teach you something. Sometimes he thought, if conquering the mind was everything, then why is peace so rare? Maybe because we're too busy trying to win, not to understand. He had learned to honor even his failures, because failure had taught him what victory never could. His niece came again and asked, "Uncle, when I grow up, will I ever be as calm as you?" He smiled, gently stroking her hair, and said, "Peace isn't about age, it's an understanding, and it's already inside you." There was that same serenity on his face, the kind you see when someone has forgiven themselves. Now he understood, true victory is when you no longer need to win. He sat by the window. The air was cool. The sun was setting, painting the sky golden. He whispered, "Maybe I finally won because I no longer need to." Silence filled the room. But in that silence, there was music rising from within, as if his soul was singing its own tune. In the background, the rustling wind, a faint sound of distant bells. And amidst it all, a smile, not of achievement, but of understanding. He smiled, closed his eyes, and felt, perhaps this is the truest form of control, when the mind isn't yours, but you and the mind become one.